G'day everybody, it's me the anti-theocrat back for another one. I have a problem with a group called the Atheist Foundation of Australia. These people proclaim to represent me nationally, and I don't agree in any way, shape or form that they do. I do not give them that authority, and I know that most of the atheists I know also do not give them that authority. Many of us have even been thrown out of the group's forums for disagreeing on certain issues. I myself was removed from a forum involving discussions of the International Atheist Conference that was due to happen in Melbourne. It has since failed to happen and was probably the last one to ever have been considered. And good riddance to bad rubbish. But I was thrown out of the forum when some woman who had not addressed me before in discussion decided to tell me I was mansplaining, and I informed her she probably needed woman learning. I was the one removed, although she had started this sexist line of discussion. I demanded my membership money back, I got my membership money back, and have never had anything to do with this group since. And I won't. In fact, I will bag them every time I possibly can for assuming that they represent me, when the only thing I have in common with them is a lack of belief in any sort of deity. Okay. Moving on, what's their problem that I'm going to address? Because this one, they and I fall on different sides of the coin. The Religious Freedom Bill, the Religious Discrimination Bill as it's been called. I do not believe this is a religious discrimination bill. I do believe this is a freedom bill. They portray it as a discrimination bill because they don't seem to understand that the freedom to discriminate is a freedom that we should all be allowed to have. So, I've got their little thing here, but let's read the first line, shall we? Because I already found objections. The proposed Religious Freedom Bill will enable organisations and individuals to discriminate in accordance with their religious beliefs. This is actually the only thing I take issue with, that this is based on religious beliefs. I think we should just do away with discrimination laws and let everybody discriminate in accordance with their beliefs. The bill does not protect freedoms, but grants religious belief undeserved, unnecessary and outrageous privileges. It does protect freedoms. It does. Why is practicing your religion as you see fit, running businesses according to your religious beliefs, not a freedom? It is a freedom. In the way that my ability to express my atheism, to have had an atheist radio show, to have produced atheist content on social media, is my freedom. But grants religious belief undeserved, unnecessary and outrageous privileges. These words do not fit, because we all deserve these rights to discriminate as we see fit. They are necessary and they are not outrageous. And it's not even a privilege. This is just something we should be allowed to do. As much as I can do it to them, they can do it to me. The privilege is that I can have it done to me. My privilege is that you can come and try and hurt my feelings. The privilege is that you can say whatever mean words to me you like. And my privilege is I can ignore you or hand it back to you. And I don't have a problem with that. If you're going to get violent, there are a separate set of laws covering that. And I'm quite happy to keep those laws in place. But what we're talking about is people getting their little fifis hurt because you said something nasty about them. Or you didn't give them the job because you don't think they're the right person for some reason. Like employing a teacher at a Christian school. You will want a Christian teacher who holds those beliefs and is willing to remember that that is important in the classroom. Now, I don't have those beliefs. I think that's a load of shit, but it is the right you should have. I do object to that in public schools, but I do not object to it in Christian schools. If we let there be Christian schools, then they have to be allowed to be Christian. The Atheist Foundation of Australia opposes the Religious Freedom Bill and will fight to protect the rights of all Australians. No, you won't. No, you won't. You pushed me off your forum for thinking that Clem Ford and her kill all men rhetoric, her hashtag rhetoric, did not actually represent Australian atheists very well for the national conference. And I didn't even object to that as hard as I objected to the fact the woman has no idea what atheism is. In her social media, it is very clear that she has asked, if atheists don't believe, why do they talk about religion all the time? She's got no fucking clue. She was not going to be a good representative speaker, but you still thought to toss me out of a forum because you wanted to protect the little feminist and have the fucking feminist on your panel. And you made this clear when many of us were objecting to Clem Ford by doubling down and booking another ratbag man-hating feminist. You have no fucking interest in protecting my rights or interests, and I'm an atheist. Shall we read the submission? As best we can. Hang on, where am I in this? Right, eh? Okay. Religious Freedom Bill submission. I'm going to only brief this. Some of it's just fucking bollocks. Religious Discrimination Bill, second exposure draft, dated 19th of January 2020. Now, this is old, but it's an ongoing discussion in our political circles, so I just thought, seeing as I still had this up in a window, I would cover it now. Sorry if you're upset that it's getting aged, but I'm going to do it anyway. Submission type, non-profit, Atheist Foundation of Australia, Sydney Atheists. If you want to know where all the atheist wankers live, Sydney. That's not true either. There are other wanker groups. Confidentiality for public release. So everything here is already public. Who cares? The Atheist Foundation of Australia and Sydney Atheists are organisations that represent atheists and other people without religious beliefs across the country. You do not, for the record, represent me or the atheists that I know. I'm just putting that out there because to claim that you represent atheists across the country, and you put yourself up as the national body for atheists. I don't know where the fuck we decided we needed a religious leadership, but that's what you've essentially made yourself. And for the record, get fucked. Our aims include to encourage and to provide a means of expression for informed, free thought on philosophical and social issues. My fucking ass. This is a fucking outright lie. As I have just explained, you tossed me off a forum for saying to a woman, and I'd already made my side of this discussion clear, and I had been very, very careful not to say anything that would get me kicked off the forum, as I had seen people continually kicked off the forum. And some woman comes on and says to me one of the most sexist, feminist things you can say that I was mansplaining. And I told her outright that she probably needed woman learning. Now, was she being philosophical? No. Was I being philosophical? No. But one of us started out being sexist, and the other simply handed it back. You don't give a fuck about my side of the social issues or the philosophical stance I had taken in my reply. You just don't give a fuck. I'm the wrong kind of atheist. I objected to you bringing feminists to the international conference. Not any feminists. Certain sorts of feminists. The sorts happy to use #KillAllMen. Trust me, there are probably feminists who understand atheism and are able to talk about atheism who I would have been happy to have talk about atheism. That is not what you selected these people for. You do not give a fuck for free thought on philosophical or social issues to safeguard the rights of non-religious people. No, again, you don't give a fuck about my rights because I'm the wrong kind of atheist. To serve as a focal point for the community of non-religious people, then why the fuck did you throw so many people out of your forum? Why the fuck were you throwing people out left, right and centre who did not agree with your feminist narrative? Anyone who said anything resembling a mean word that you could hold against them, you threw them out. And they were getting enough shit from the feminists in those forums that saying rude words was fucking hard to do. Not saying rude words was hard to do. And I didn't even say a rude word. I invented one. Woman learning. You need to fucking get some. So yes, you don't give a fuck for being a focal point for the community of non-religious people. Only the ones who support your narrative. We put forward this submission with the hope that it will lead to a society in which everyone can live harmoniously. I don't give a fuck about your harmonious societies. Harmonious societies don't fucking grow. They don't develop. They don't evolve. They don't make new things. And there's just... everyone fucking sits on their ass and does nothing when there's harmony. Fuck harmony. In providing this submission, we aim not only to safeguard protections for non-believers, but also those who also hold religious beliefs, as these people could just as easily fall foul of the proposed legislation depending on their degree of religiosity. In that, I agree. In so far as this bill is concerned, I agree with one thing. It does not need to be a religious bill. And no, it is not a discrimination bill. It is a freedom bill. Because the freedom to discriminate, the freedom to insult, should be mine. It should also be my freedom to be discriminated against and be offended. I don't really have a problem with that. I do not think that in my line of work there are a number of people who you would call... what did you call them later in this document? I can't fucking remember. Basically, hopeless. Okay, there's a load of hopeless people. I know you didn't use that word, but it's what you meant. That's how that word reads. There are a load of hopeless people that I have no use for in my business. Okay? The little fucking queer junkie with the weird-ass haircuts and the tats and piercings all over his face has no place in my business. I should be allowed to tell that cunt he's not getting a job with me because he's a fucking Fruit Loop. But I'm not allowed to tell him that. He's never going to learn that he's got to straighten his act out if he wants to get a job. No, I'm not allowed to say those things. Like, it's too mean. I want this right as well. Is the only problem I have with this bill is that it is religious. It's based on the idea that religious people are the only ones who need the right to tell people to fuck off. That's my only issue with it. And I'm going to jump through a lot of this because basically number 9, I think, is where it comes clear what your real perspective on this, because you don't give a fuck about non-believers, not the non-believers who don't believe your political viewpoints. So I'm going to skip all the bits where you say, oh, this is going to give religious people certain freedoms it's not going to give to people who don't have religion. I agree with you that this needs to be expanded to all of us. In fact, what I'd really like is this bill to fuck off, and the entire anti-discrimination laws, the whole bloody list of laws, to all fuck off. Right? If you're in your wheelchair and you can't get a job in an office because they decide that getting a wheelchair ramp built at the front of the building is going to cost more than 5 years' worth of profits, find a job somewhere else. Seriously, I know this is a cunt's way of putting things, but everybody cannot bend and scrape to everybody else in society just because you think they might be offended. I'm not going to take the pierced, tattoo-faced little fucking queer cunt and then put him in a job because he'd be no fucking good to me. Oh, here's where your words that these people are hopeless too, by the way. 9.8. This bill will bring legislative protections for religious belief and activity to the same standard as those already afforded under the federal anti-discrimination law to discrimination on the basis of age, disability, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, intersex status, family responsibility, marital or relationship status, pregnancy or potential pregnancy, breastfeeding, race, colour, national or ethnic origin, descent or immigrant status. You know what? I want those. I want all of those rights. Many religions do not accept sexual orientation outside of heterosexual gender identity other than cisgender identity or de facto relationship status. This bill will probably protect individuals who might invoke a religious deference in the denouncements or discrimination against LBGT individuals. Women and idiots, individuals. This is idiots and quackers. I don't know, which I think spelt with a K, but who cares? Individuals, women and children who work, and individuals in the de facto relationships or same-sex marriages. These are some of the most vulnerable people in society. What you're saying is these people are useless. Useless people. You just said it. As it is, I want these rights too. Because I don't want to employ, actually, these people. And there are probably trans people that I would consider. I don't particularly have a great interest in these people either, because you want to talk about Fruit Loops. There's a hell of a lot of those in that group. But, shit. The whole bloody lot represent a hell of a lot of Fruit Loops. I might have reason to discriminate against somebody for these reasons if I had a stable person who had this and were this. I just don't care, right? Married, heterosexual, cisgendered. You can be fairly reliant these days that these are reasonably stable people. I cannot be so sure with these people, and as a polyamorous person who has hung around with these people for a long time and have had many friends in these, I still have friends who are LBGT. There is a lot of instability in those groups. And you said it yourself, these are some of the most vulnerable people in our society. In my industry, it is not very helpful to be emotionally or physically vulnerable. When you spent 5 hours working and you decide to get on a pair of stilts and a dozen kids decide to follow you around and try and push you off the stilts and abuse you for 20 minutes before you get back to safety and get off the bloody things, there is no room for you to break down and cry. I have to get back out, work as best I can in the situation that I'm in doing something other than letting these little twerps get the best of me. And yeah, this has happened to me in my job. I've had lots of little twerps try to get under my skin. And you've got to be thick-skinned. And it's not just... It's physical. There's a whole range of things. Little twerps and big twerps. Trust me, the parents are no better in a lot of cases. But I can't afford to employ vulnerable people. These people are fucking useless to me. So, yeah, I want that right to discriminate. Because what I need is a certain group of people with a certain strength to them. By the way, I'm never employing a woman again. I'll never say it. And at the moment I'm not employing, so I'm not in danger of being taken to anti-discrimination cases. I don't have any grand plan that's going to require me to employ again for a long time. I've done that. I'm stepping back away from that level of business. But should I employ again? I'm not employing women again. Ever. I have 2 female partners. I said I'm polyamorous, right? I'm in a long-term relationship with 2 women. Lifetime relationship with 2 women. I'm never employing a woman, and they support me in that. But I'm not allowed to say it. Well, I fucking should be allowed. And I should be allowed to say why. I should be allowed to say that working on a mine site in a fucking enviro suit with nothing between me and the little girl that I was actually filling in for someone who got the job over me because she got sick 2 weeks after she got the job. So I was brought in to fill in the job that she got. And when she came back, I had to train her. So, wearing enviro suits with a little air conditioning pack on the back with a filter that sucks air into the thing to suck out lead, to make sure we're not breathing lead in our enviro suits. The only time I speak to this girl outside there is to show her what's going on in the lab, in which case I do not touch her or go near her. I'm either instructing her or standing back watching what she's doing. After that, the only conversation between us is over the smoko table. And I know what I said wrong. I said something about Mother Teresa. And even though this girl had assured me she had no religious beliefs, apparently discussing my social media feed over the table, which was what we were doing, and saying, oh, there's this new study about Mother Teresa, upset the little girlie. So she placed a false accusation of sexual misconduct against me. I know this was what that was about because I had fucking nothing to do with the little bint other than that. So, I'm never employing a woman again because my business can't afford the risk. I can't afford the risk personally. I should be allowed to say why. I should be allowed to discriminate that way. The only reason I'm saying it now is because I'm not employing, so you can't fucking say anything about me. Except know that if I ever do, I want this right. I want this right as much as the religious people deserve it. I want removal of the anti-discrimination laws from our nation, full stop. I want our laws to be based around how we actually harm one another, not whether we simply do not give somebody a job. It is my business. It is my business to decide who I employ. It is my business to decide who I do business with. It is my business to concern myself over. It is your job as a customer to decide if you will support my business or not. And if you choose not to, that's your business. You can discriminate against my business and against me for not having the same beliefs as you, which you've already done to me anyway, and to a lot of other people like me. I don't really have a lot more to say about all of this. It's a load of bollocks, because these people come from a point of, well, they're dishonest. It's just, all I can say is there's a dishonesty about this, because they do not represent the things they say they represent. Their real concern for this was at point 9 that I brought up. I know this because I have talked with these people, because I know what these people are. Their real concern for this is less about whether I, as a non-religious person, will have the same rights to discriminate, more that even I shouldn't have these rights. That's what they want. They want me to not have these rights. They want religious people to also not have these rights. I stand on the other side of that fence, wanting all of us to have these rights. So they don't represent me. They don't represent anything I believe. So this discrimination bill will likely bring about a situation whereby people will come into the mix come to mix only with like minds. Frighteningly, it may reinforce confirmation bias, whereby people of a particular belief system will only hear the same thing over and over again with no meaningful challenge to their thinking. Welcome to feminist atheism. Seriously, you are doing exactly that when you discriminate against people for having an objection to a outspoken non-atheist feminist who you are clearly getting up to discuss feminism. And rather than discuss the philosophical idea or the social ideas, you block and ban people. You create your own little echo chambers. But you're atheists, so you're better than these theists. Well, I don't believe that for a minute. It may encourage cognitive dissonance, whereby people of a particular persuasion will make excuses in their thinking for obvious inconsistencies with their scripture, between their scripture and observations, and inconsistencies between their scriptures and the outside world. Religious isolation, feminist isolation, will likely lead to social isolation and breed contempt by the isolated towards others. Again, welcome to feminist atheism. Welcome to the Australian Foundation, the Atheist Foundation of Australia. That's exactly what your organisation has shown it is willing to do. The Atheist Foundation of Australia considers this proposed bill seeks to empower the more extremes of religion at the expense of those who are moderately religious and have no religion. You don't give a flying fuck about the moderately religious. Don't fucking pretend you do. But again, I don't care. I want all of us to have these rights. I want all of us to be able to discriminate against the people we want to discriminate against. Maybe by talking, we can find common ground. I have theist friends, you know. I have a friend who's a very theist, although she claims to be a non-religious Christian. But she told me one day that my children would be... She thinks my children are quite nice people, wonderful people. But she thinks my children could be a little bit better if they had religion. And I outright told her to her face that she was an insulting person. And by opening up that... and she felt personally attacked by that. But then I got to point out... We end up in a discussion, and I got to point out that by telling me that my children could be better with religion, she was being insulting to me and my children. And we've worked out a compromise position where she can believe what she believes, but never fucking bring it to the table with me and never mention that my kids could be better if they had it. So you understand that she put forward... she said something which I wasn't offended by, but I could have been, and I understood how it was an offensive thing to say. So I deliberately offended her back, knowing that she would take it as offensive. But by doing so, we both got to absorb that and get on with our conversations and reconcile our differences over it. I can't do that when I can't talk to people because I might offend them. These people do not represent me. These people do not represent anything I stand for or believe in. These people do not represent my atheism. They do not represent my position on my atheism or my position on theism. These people do not represent my political position, and they do not represent my position on discrimination law, because I want the right to say what the fuck I think. Anyway, I've been the anti-theocrat. I hope this made some sense to someone. I'll see you in the next one. May your gods remain fictional and all that. You know how it goes. Anyway, till then.